Hey, welcome to the trauma room. I am super excited for this room. This is the very first episode, so I am so grateful that you have decided to tune in with me. I am Portia Edwards, the host and the founder of the trauma room. I created this trauma room with you in mind. And our mission here is simple. We are confronting the trauma, we are removing the shame, and we're taking our power back. So this trauma room is like a live show. It's like never anything that you have heard or seen before. You know why? Because we're going to be using not only my story, but we're going to be using the stories of many people to help them come forward. There are so many of us that have testimonies, stories, triumphs, things that have taken place that almost killed us and defeated us. And we have never spoken about it publicly, even privately. So many of us are carrying secrets now that are literally going to destroy our lives. And I began to think, I got a revelation back in August of 2024. And as I was driving home from Texas, I'm currently in Birmingham, Alabama, my hometown, my home city. The Lord gave me the word, the trauma room. He says, Portia, think about how there are many people that go to the emergency room. And when they go to the emergency room, they're usually going because they have an illness, they're injured, they're hurt, or they have some type of discomfort in their body. But he said, I want you to create a trauma room. And I was like, what is a trauma room? And he said, this is a space where people all over the world are going to come and they are going to listen not only to your story, but there are going to be interview segments that you're going to highlight certain people that has a story that is worth sharing. And I know there are certain platforms, there are certain environment and spaces where we're not able to speak. We're not able to share our stories without anybody criticizing us. There's always going to be somebody saying, oh, you should just get over that. Oh, you should have been healed. You should have did this and you should have did that. But there are so many areas as it relates to trauma that people do not understand the impact. And most importantly, since I am basically Black African American, I have grown up in a Black household, and I'm going to talk about it today because in the Black community, listen, many of my kinfolks and many of my neighbors, they're not going to therapy. And the reason why they're not going to therapy is because they say, I don't want nobody in my business. But therapy is very unbiased. But how many of us have been trying to convince people year after year, family members, just go to therapy, just go to therapy, just go to therapy. And even those who have tried therapy, it was like, no, it don't work. It ain't for me. I'm going the other way. I ain't got to deal with my issues. And so you know why? This is the great thing, the reason why the trauma room was created. It was created with you in mind. Because guess what? It's some of us, listen, if I can testify, some of us, we need to be in therapy 365 days a year. That's how bad it is. But you know what? This is a channel. This is a show. We're not coming to criticize. We're not coming to shame nobody. In fact, we're removing the shame. I'm going to help you on this channel, give you practical wisdom, revelation, things that God has given me over the years to even help me to get to where I'm at. Because the version of me you see today, the version of Portia Edwards you see today, baby, just listen. When I tell you, I'm finna go all gas and no brakes, because this is how much my life will impact other people. When I begin to tell you of the goodness of God right now in my current today's stage, oh my God, somebody better get ready. So again, welcome to the trauma room. That's a little information about me. That's the little information about why I created this room with you in mind. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, the first question that I want to do is define trauma. Now, understand that trauma, each one of us is going to have different definitions of trauma. So you might like the definition that I give. That's completely okay. However, if you have a different definition of trauma, I want to know, put it down in the chat, put it in the comments, because you know what? that might also, I might use that one day. You know, I might borrow your definition. So that is really good. But one of the things about it is trauma is just so multifaceted. It affects us in different areas of our lives. One of the familiar ways we know trauma to be is childhood trauma, right? But there's also trauma from loss, whether it's from grief, whether you lost friendships, or whether you lost a relationship, whether you got divorced. There's adulthood trauma that we experience in our adulthood from different milestones and different stages. So that is the reason why I usually would first start by defining trauma, because so many of us have grown up in different cultures and cities and environments where our definition, our viewpoint, perspective of trauma is so different across the board. So I'm going to first start off. Many of you all may or may not know, but the first person that I'm going to quote is Dr. Anita Phillips. She's actually a trauma-based therapist, right? So many of you all may follow her on social media, but I was at a particular event in Atlanta, and at this event, of course, wherever Dr. Anita goes, she's going to talk about trauma, okay? And one of the definitions she gave that I absolutely love, she said, trauma is anything that overwhelms your body's capacity. My God, like that literally blew my mind. When you think about trauma overwhelming your body's capacity, many people don't realize that we carry trauma in our bodies, right? Whether it's our neck, our shoulders, our back, especially with women. It almost feels like there is a heavy weight that we just cannot get rid of. And many of us will say, oh, that, I'm just stressed out or whatever. Maybe I overworked at the gym, or maybe my body needs to rest because I've been on my feet all day. So we'll basically use many different situations to say, oh, I was just stressed, when indeed it really could just be trauma. It's just like in an emergency room. If there's an injury to a certain part of a body, it is that particular ligament or joint, it's going to start responding later. It's literally going to start responding. And you might get to the point where you like, oh, I can't deal with this. I got to go somewhere. So trauma, another definition that I found is trauma is an emotional upset. My God. It also stated, this is from Merriam-Webster dictionary that I mentioned. Trauma is also an injury. Like I said about the emergency room, trauma is an injury, such as a wound to a living tissue caused by an intrinsic agent. The only reason I brought this definition up is to kind of compare why people go to the emergency room. But now we're not thinking about the emergency room. I'm going to help you understand this is why you need the trauma room, because there are areas in our lives, wounds, whether they're physical, emotional, social wounds, financial wounds, there are mental wounds, there are also spiritual wounds that every one of us have. Each and every one of us are dealing with something. So as I begin to think about this, I want to share some information with you. So if God said this to me, April the 23rd of 2024, he says, I am using your trauma experiences to bring you to your identity. Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because guess what? The topic for today's session and for today's show is called Come Here Trauma. I want somebody to put that in the chat. Come Here Trauma. The reason why I said come here trauma, parentheses, talk to your emotions. Many of people don't even realize our emotions talk to us. Every emotion that we experience, it has a name. But many of us are not willing to talk to our emotions or even to tell it to come here. You know why? Because we're busy. We don't want to hear about it. But can I tell you this? Trauma is just a placeholder in your story. So let's identify some areas of trauma, right? Because I don't want to be too generalized when I say the word trauma. Anxiety, it is a result of trauma. Depression was a result of trauma. Maybe something you lost, something you missed out on. something that maybe you didn't feel inadequate with your self-identity. Maybe someone rejected you. Rejection is a trauma response. Anger is a trauma response. Other forms of trauma, we're going to get a bit, we have physical trauma such as sexual abuse, rape, molestation. You also have mental trauma, where basically mental illness. You also got heavy emotions. Maybe you're that type of person that you could seem like you basically cry uncontrollably. There's also social trauma, meaning fear of isolation, fear of speaking out, fear of, you basically feel real bad. You like, I don't know why I can't not sit by myself, right? You feel like you need a group of people. All of those are trauma responses. And the reason why is because oftentimes when an area of trauma is you lost a parent. So you basically grew up motherless or fatherless, right? Even if it took place in your adulthood, there was that shift that took place hindered your ability to move forward. It almost paralyzed your emotions to the point where you couldn't think. You didn't know how to respond. You were confused. You questioned things a lot. A lot of those are trauma responses. Now, listen, I'm going to be honest. My background is not no physical. I'm not no mental health counselor, okay? That is not my area. However, I believe the Lord has given me this. Actually, like I said, I'm not no mental health counselor, never desired to be one. Okay, let me put that on the table. But I am a military veteran, and my job in the military is supply chain logistics. I work with systems. I work with moving parts, ordering things. Has nothing to do with trauma, okay? But I did get my degree in public health, which deals with the overall well-being of an individual, making sure that there are programs, things that are being implemented, that there are, it deals heavily with infectious diseases, epidemiology. It also deals with things that basically help the community resources. If there's something lacking, whether it's water, whether it's testing, whether it's making sure that there are no viruses and diseases, that type of stuff with public health. So as you can see, I have no background whatsoever. And so that is the good, unique thing about me, because I am a Christian, by the way. So you won't get the word of Jesus on here. Matter of fact, we're going to probably pray sometimes, okay? Because you know why? When I'm telling you that we confront the trauma, I'm about to help you develop a whole nother level of boldness. I'm going to help you to be able to take your power back. The reason why taking your power back, and I'm not saying physical power, meaning that you want to have power over somebody, or you feel like I could tell people what to do. I'm talking about inward power. So many of us are afraid to speak our mind and say something. And the reason why that is because of trauma. Somebody maybe said, oh, you ain't good enough. Oh, you look like your daddy. Or your daddy win this, you're not going to be this. Your mama win this, you're not going to be this. It's those word curses that really took you out of here. And the thing is, the reason why I'm super excited is because not only am I excited to share my story, but I am excited to share what trauma, how overcoming trauma, right? I'm going to help you get through the victim mindset. Some of y'all are patients. You know how in the emergency room, you're classified as a patient? Listen, baby, I'm about to bring you forth. You no longer finna be sitting in the hospital bed and going to the hospital every time you got an issue. I'm going to teach you how to talk to your trauma, because today we saying come heal trauma. And the reason why I said come heal trauma, I thought it was very that word really stood out to me, because so many of us, we do not know how to sit with ourselves. We do not know how to sit with ourselves. This is one of the things you're going to understand about my life, and you're going to understand about me every time I get on here to share something that the Lord has given me with you. I believe this day that even as you're listening to me, the chains, the weight that you feel today, the bondage that you feel today, I truly believe that the spirit of freedom and liberation and deliverance is going to take a hold of your life, and you're going to be free. See, when I talk about come here trauma, and we say come here trauma, that means I am ready to confront trauma. That means I'm ready to get in a position of power. And I'm not going to say come here trauma and then go smoke a blunt afterwards. Because guess what? What that blunt is doing, it is distracting me from really confronting my pain. It's distracting me from really dealing with my emotions. And there is nothing wrong. This is, like I said, we're not on here to criticize nobody. We're not on here to talk about nobody. But I'm here to call forth things to let you know. Come here, trauma. Trauma, you're not finna destroy my life. Trauma, you already took this from me. But trauma, I'm coming back for it. Because you know why? This season of my life, this time when I'm getting ready to move forward, trauma, I ain't got no, listen, we ain't on the same team no more. Trauma, matter of fact, I done already divorced you because guess what? I got to go forward. Trauma, you ain't finna allow me to eat these cookies and these pies to keep me from getting into my emotions, because here's the thing. My God, I'm helping somebody already. Every time you get a thought in your head, let's just say, for example, many of us have experienced a breakup. Soon as you experience the breakup, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's on the phone, whether it's through a text message, the first thing we want to do, we questioning ourselves. Why this happened? Like, I kind of felt something was out. We trying to justify the person's behavior. We trying to figure out what we going to respond back. We might say, oh, we don't care. I don't care, whatever like that. And then the next moment you pick up the phone. You picking up the phone to see if the person texts you back. You going on the person's social media. We are burning calories. Because now that traumatic experience, that breakup, that heartbreak now has us in a chokehold. Literally. It has us in a chokehold. So that is normally one of our responses that we do. Then what we'll do, we'll go eat. We go blow. Oh my God. We can spend some money when we hurt, baby. Like, we'll buy stuff that we don't even need. I promise you, we'll buy stuff that we don't even need. And, but the biggest one is we'll go buy some food. We'll stuff our face with this food, knowing we probably don't need the food. We ain't even really got an appetite for the food. Can we be honest? We just going to get it because we like, man, so-and-so done did me like this. Now I got to feed myself, man. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired of going through this. Like, we are beating ourselves up. When I tell you, so many of us have beat ourselves down because somebody just broke up with us, or we even broke up with them. Come on, let's talk about that. There are some people that'll cut people off in a minute. But you know what? Even though they got that spirit to cut people off, they still gonna be hurt. You know why? Because there's a tearing and there's a breaking away. And so I want to tell you this. Let me tell you this. Trauma is just a placeholder in your story. It's just a placeholder in your story. So everything that we went through, every person that we encountered, every environment, every situation where we was hurt in, God placed us in that moment. He allowed it to happen. So he allowed that trauma to take place in our lives. But he was doing that so we can once again learn how to turn the page. My God, I'm going to say that again. God allowed it so we can learn how to turn the page. Because when you think about a story, right, and you're reading a story, on this one page of a story, it can tell you, hey, this devastating things, this loss, this tragedy just happened or whatever. But then on the next page, it's starting to tell you how the person overcame. And what happens is many of us get stuck right down that one page, and we get paralyzed to the fact that we can't even turn the page. We like, oh, I don't even want to move forward after this. And also I wrote that trauma never had a position. Trauma never had the power. We gave it power when we chose not to move forward. And we do that, and the way we chose not to move forward is by rehearsing it. So the first key point that I want you to remember, trauma is just a placeholder. Trauma is just a placeholder in your story. That means it took place at this particular time. God needed to hold you at that place because he wanted to teach you a lesson. He wanted to show you something that you probably yet wouldn't realize. The next key point that I want you to take away from this is Trauma never had a position. That means when people come into our life, they have a position in our life. They have pretty much a name in our lives, right? That means they also, whether they're friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, those are considered positions, right? We put them in that category to say, you are this to me, you are this to me, XYZ. Trauma never had a position. So just because a person, physical person, relationship had a position, you do not have to associate that person with the trauma anymore. And I'm going to help you get through that. I'm going to show you why. Trauma, the next key point is trauma never had the power. Like I said, we give it power when we rehearse. So if a relationship that you were in, friendship that you were in, someone died, grief, anything that, like I said, that you experienced, lost in, basically you gave it the power when you decide to rehearse, this is what this person done to me. And whether it's like you going to the grocery store, whether it's you going to the mall, the movies, any little thing that reminds you of that person, oftentimes we giving it power because we're like, oh yeah, I do remember so-and-so like this. And it just kind of paralyzes us and shut us down for a minute. You like, man, let me go ahead and get up out of this store because I ain't got time for this, right? And you might be responding that way. Nobody even know why you're responding that way, but you know why you're responding that way, because now trauma has just rose up and came in and was like, oh yeah, I'm here, trauma. Trauma showed up and was like, yeah, where you at? And you respond by rehearsing it. So those are the 3 key points that I wanted to also mention to you, that I feel that is very important, that is very vital. And so yeah, that is very important, that is very vital. So as it relates to trauma, I'm going to continue to say trauma, like I said, has happened to many of us. But I truly believe that many of us are not able to see the other side of trauma for various reasons. And I wrote down something in my notes and I started to reflect. There were 3 areas that I wrote, 3 specific areas that I said that trauma basically destroyed my early 20s. Trauma destroyed my early 20s. And those 3 areas was depression, rejection, and anxiety. No, it was depression, it was also rejection, and it was isolation. I believe those were the 3 areas that I had wrote. And the reason why those 3 areas really destroyed the first part of my 20s was because I didn't know how to move forward. If you're anyone like me, and I believe there's someone that is like me on this channel that is watching me now. If you're anything like me, when you go through a breakup, or whenever there's a relationship that ends, you literally probably gonna take you at least a good 6 months. And I'm talking about 6 months to be generous. It could take you up to a year. And don't feel bad that it takes you a long time. Like that relationship you could have had, let's say that sucker ended the beginning of 2024. You just probably now trying to recover, right? And that is okay. It does take some of us longer. Like I said, this is a judgment-free zone. Listen, we ain't out here about to, I ain't finna sugarcoat, nor am I finna lie. I'm just gonna be 100. It took me a good 6 months to a year to get over any heartbreak, right? And the reason why was because every time I went somewhere, if there was familiar cars, I'm looking at the cars, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to avoid being seen. You're remembering people tag numbers, right? We were doing the extremes for that. There were things with their relationship. You remember what stores they liked. You remember what restaurants they went to. So you were trying heavily to avoid those places, right? You like, oh Lord, I don't know if I'm gonna see him again. And you in the Walmart, you like, oh, I gotta go and get out of here. So we ducking and dodging and everything, right? There are some times, like, listen, some of us got that drive-by spirit on us. We'll drive by the people's house to see if they still live there, right? To see the next person they talking to. Come on, be honest with me, because I have done these things, right? Trauma was making me do all of that stuff. My emotions, when I tell you the initial definition I gave you about trauma being an emotional upset, listen, that was me. I was emotionally upset by what happened. Number one, you ain't communicate with me. Number two, you probably just cut me off with no answer. Okay, cool. Now I got to find out. So, basically, if you're like me and you went through those things, when I tell you, it is so devastating. You don't want to deal with nobody no more. You like, listen, I'm going to be single for this longer time, and men this or women this. Like, we are literally, when I tell you, we are giving it to ourselves. We are beating ourselves up, and we're most importantly, we giving Trump, we're telling people a piece of our mind. But really, have you ever heard the saying, hurt people, right? And all those things we were doing, we were really hurting ourselves. We hurting ourselves. Mentally, we were depleted and drained. We ain't getting no good sleep at night. We were irritable, very anxious, very worried. Most of us were very upset, so we had those emotional and loud anger outbursts. It was, when I tell you, it was crazy. It was crazy. And, it was crazy. But God has a story past your pain. That's what I want to tell you today. God has a story past your pain. And the story that God has for each and every one of us, I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. The story that God has for each one of us, I was like, no, God, I don't think I'm finna sign up to basically know this new version of me. I don't even want to. Can I opt out of it? Because I ain't got time for it. And so basically, I told God I'm going to opt out. I'm like, God, you know what? I'm so scared to see the version of who I'm going to become. I was so scared. When I tell you, I was scared. I was scared. Because I'm like, Lord God, I don't know if I'm going to destroy the new version, because I'm going to tell her everything. Give her a piece of my mind and say, listen, girl, I know you just might have showed up, but I ain't done with the old me yet. And see, the reason why it is so important for us to recognize our trauma. You came on this channel today, you might have passed across the thumbnail and was like, oh, who this is? Let me see who this person is. And I'm so grateful that you chose to say, you know what? I'm going to listen to what she got to say, because I ain't never heard this before, the trauma room. Like, when I tell you, baby, we finna do surgery on your heart. We finna do surgery on your mind. My God, we finna do surgery on some open wounds, closed wounds, all of it, okay? All of it. I am about to just give you the real, the raw, and the most relatable version of myself. Most importantly, the most vulnerable version of myself that you desperately so need in your life. So the reason why I say what I said, and the reason why I'm so grateful to have released this trauma room, and to release what it is, because I'm not gonna lie, I never wanted to confront trauma. And the reason why I didn't want to confront trauma, because I felt that trauma was stronger than me. Yes, I felt like, okay, trauma stronger than me. Trauma got a stronghold on me. Come on now. And I ain't gonna lie, I didn't want to tell my story, because I'm like, Lord, the shame, the embarrassment. You mean to tell me? Now, some people don't mind telling all their business and all their mess. But at the same time, we used to be in them comment sections. We like, listen, Lord, them folks is tearing them up in them comment sections. You want me to get out there? Come on, somebody. I'm listening. Come on, somebody. But God was like, listen, I'm going to help you remove the shame. I'm going to help you take your power back. And the reason why I didn't want to communicate is because guess what? I'm super excited to tell you that we're going to get through we are going to get through these family secrets. So if you would join me on this journey, I'm super excited for this trauma room and this launching of episode 1. And if you would go ahead and share this with all of your friends and families, to let them know they need to subscribe and like this channel, because guess what? It is about to go down in this trauma room. And I declare and decree that you're never going to be the same again in your life. I declare and decree that guess what? The new version of you is about to come forth. So if you would like, share, and tag some of your friends, family members, co-workers, let them know, girl, I just found a place that's going to help me confront the trauma, remove my shame, and take my power back. I ain't got time to be playing with these folks in 2025. I'm finna go to another place. I'm about to go to another level and another dimension, because you know what? Lord, I repent this day because I've been carrying the trauma for so long. My God, I hear this for somebody. Lord, I repent this day because, Lord, I wasn't ready to give you my trauma. Listen, I was ready to still fight about my trauma, right? Because some people was triggering me, but the Lord is telling you on today, listen, let them folks listen. Let them folks continue to talk, because what I'm finna do through you and through this channel, my God, them folks are no longer going to be able to trigger you, but you're going to say, oh, okay, cool. You can talk what you're going to talk, but shoot, now I got victory over it. I ain't worried about if you spreading my name. I ain't worried about if you trying to blackmail me. Come on, somebody. I ain't worried about if you got nothing on me. I think about that song, Can't Touch This, because guess what? That's what we're about to do in a trauma room. You can't touch this. You can't touch this new version of me. Oh, my God, somebody better come on now. Come on now and let them know. The trauma room is where it's at. So I invite each and every one of you all to put on your notifications. The trauma room is live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Every Tuesday and Thursday live on YouTube only, Central Standard Time. So guess what? Check out the show notes on today that are in the descriptions on the ways on how you can follow me, connect with me on social media. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Threads. And I look forward to the next episode. And I can't wait to talk to you all again. Be blessed. Bye.